Hello and welcome to Pandora's Fox. My name's Julian Valance, joined for the first time in 2025 from racing.com, Clint Hutchison. G'day, Hutch. How are we?
Good to see you.
Yes.
Good to see you. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I didn't have a bad weekend, so found a few in the Armageddon situation at Flemington. But it was a good meeting, I think, in some respects, but difficult to rate.
Yeah, extremely difficult to rate. And we're going to start here, punters, by giving you the track intel of how this track played. So let's have a look at that. This, for me, is a nightmare. So please, for the punters out there, give them some clarity. Give me some clarity, because I've got no idea. So yes, Flemington, true position the entire circuit. Now we get a little bit scary. Soft 5 starts with downgrades to a soft 6 after race 3, downgrades to a soft 7 after race 6. The wind, it was all over the place. So no doubt at stages it was a southwesterly, but I think at stages it was a westerly. At stages it was just a pure southerly. It did get up to 45 kilometres as well, so we know that has massive impact. What we can clearly identify is the times indicate that it was clearly a genuine soft track. Yeah. So that probably even worse than a soft track at some stages when you throw the wind in there as well. That's all I've got. It was so hard.
There are a lot of forgives, weren't there? And I think that's the big thing to take from the meeting. And also, I think you've got to try and find some positives out of it. So part of that might be horses that didn't handle wet tracks. Yeah. And there were certainly a couple of those. Royal Insignia was one, I think, that didn't really let down that well. A couple of other runners through the day. So I think, if they're planning on kicking on perhaps into the autumn into Sydney, you'd be a little hesitant.
Yeah.
But there were certainly horses that just didn't get through the ground or the conditions.
Yeah. I think for the straight, what we can sort of identify as well, and I sort of always have the outlier with this straight race, the 2-year-olds, because they're just their own beasts. There's some really unraced horses. They don't know what they're doing anyway. They want to find the inside rail and usually want to be on the outside at the Flemington Straight. Is that I think those two other straight races, Bossy Nick and in particular Skybird, you needed to have cover. So I think you can be a little bit forgiving if you were sort of punching the breeze. The circle, I thought, was even. And I think there'll probably be people out there saying, well, leaders really struggled. Fancify went no good. Well, Fancify was in a blizzard. I mean, that race was outrageous, that race 3. And Road to Arataki sits outside it. I think Husk really just got beaten a little bit by Chillicap. So I don't think leaders were that too disadvantaged. It was just even. I just think the whole day as a whole, just be really, really careful. Don't be stamping things as, yes, this is their big number now. And don't be negative the other way that if you failed, that they're gonzo.
It's a forgive run for so many horses, like you said. I don't think that the track pattern per se, I'm with you. I thought around the circle in particular, you could probably come from anywhere. You just had to handle those conditions. And generally in those conditions, you want to be a little bit closer to the front end, but I think you could pretty much win from anywhere. Yeah, the straight races, I agree with you as well. A little bit of cover, particularly those later races.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the feature race.
Correct, which we're going to get to. So that's the track intel I said. There's a little bit in it. Just be forgiving. I just don't put anything in the bin just yet coming out of that. Let's get to the Hen House. Now, the Hen House, Hutch, let's try and identify what we thought might be some diamonds in the rough here. Look, I can only really identify one race because I've got just this whole meeting, as I said, big question mark. But let's do the Group 1, the Lightning Stakes, won by Skybird. Runs 59.05. It's a second outside standard time, and that's for a soft track. 23.55, 11.95, last 400, 200. The winner comes home in 11.62, which is just about the best of the day. But you could see in this race here that, to be honest, if it got beaten, I mean, at the 400 metres, have you seen a horse bolting as much at 50 to 1 or 50s into about, $23, $20, $26, something like that? She's an out-and-out wet tracker for me, though, as well, I think. And I think
she pulled up lame out of the race, which is worth noting. So I don't know where the plans will be. What a turn of foot. Held up from the 4 to the 2. She had that cover. It's another back marker. We were sort of just speaking about this before we recorded this, but, another one of these back markers is all of a sudden only that 2 or 3 lengths off them rather than, at Caulfield or another track around a circle, giving them 6 to 7 and making it tough. I just didn't think she'd be sharp enough.
Yeah.
I don't know now. I'm starting to think, is she an out-and-out sprinter as well?
Yeah, I think they sort of had a crack maybe with her they think, you run her in the Sanctuary or something like that. That is probably her go because they tried to stretch her out to 1,600 when she was sort of a filly. Now she's an older mare. You win a Lightning. Like it's a a premier race in the calendar, 1,000-metre weight for age race. So her rating's going to go up now, like to a level where she's not going to be on the minimum in these 1,400 and 1,600-metre races. So maybe she just now goes to the 1,200-metre sprint races.
Let me get some quick fire questions to you as well out of the race. Switzerland.
Don't know. Like, I can't pot him.
Yeah.
Like, Market sort of was solid enough with him. There was no real pot out him. I know IME got scratched, but there was nothing to suggest he was off. He would have been there to win the race. I'm not bidding him, but who knows?
Yep.
And I think this is the whole day, isn't it?
Growing empire.
I'm really worried about him.
Yeah, I agree. He did a lot wrong still, didn't he?
And he changes his action when the pressure comes on. And I reckon we've seen it a couple of times with him. And that really worries me. I was worried about him from the spring because it was a real arduous spring campaign. They missed that G1 in the Group 1 race at Moonee Valley where he was home for all money and Southport Tycoon came up on the inside and sort of got him.
How?
Correct.
Anyway.
Again, I'm still on the floor from that. So he's the worry for me. And he's going to continually try and run in these races and they might go, let's try and pick off an easier one, which could be a race like the William Reid. I'm worried because he's going to take up market percentage and I want to be against him.
And traffic warden.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, again.
I thought he was okay. I mean, he's got to settle his temperament down a bit, but I thought he actually ran all right. If he went up against Switzerland again and the market was a similar situation, then I could see a position where he'll certainly make a race of it.
Yeah.
But I suppose ultimately the 3-year-olds, they were disappointing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think your question's really good in terms of most of these horses that failed or didn't run up to market expectation for me, I'm giving another chance. Asterisk Growing Empire, I'm just really worried about his action when there's pressure on because it's happened before. That's the Hen House punters. Right, let's get to the doghouse. So something that we're a little bit worried about going forward, and I've spoken about it since the start of this show, Hutch, is this whole meeting. Do not think that this is a solid form reference for the rest of the autumn, whether it be in Melbourne or whether it be in Sydney. And you might be able to take little pockets out of it saying, well, I think these horses are real soft tracker, so it'll be okay up in Sydney. Other than that, like we spoke about on Turnbull from the Turnbull Stakes Day when we did Pandora's Fox, that Turnbull Stakes race was the one you wanted to follow all through the spring, and it delivered in spades. This whole meeting for me, I'm more or less saying there's no number that they've ran here in any of these races on Saturday that I'm taking as their number.
It's just very hard to judge, isn't it? Because like you said, that a lot of these horses will be featuring in the big meetings.
Absolutely.
And they're going to come out and you think, well, how did that horse do that? So it is very, very difficult, I think, with some confidence because the likelihood is we're not going to get those conditions
correct.
again.
Well, hopefully not. Yeah.
Hopefully not. But, look, I think as a meeting there were still some nice performances.
Yeah.
What did you make of Revelara in the first?
Yeah, now, it's a really good horse and I really hope they go to the paddock now. So I thought maybe it was off the quick 7-day back up 2 starts ago and I was like just a little bit worried when horses then come again for another 2-week go. He got himself into such an awkward position, sort of came up along the inside after it not working out for him. He came off their heels and rated really well. I thought he's a horse.
Unbelievable finishing speed on him.
I'd love to, I look at him and I go to the paddock, you come back, you win a race like that Foundation Cup, that 2,000-metre naturalism to be right in his alley. And then I don't know if he's going to get to 1.5 miles, but he's one that can, I think, continue to springboard.
Yeah, no, I didn't mind his performance. And even the one that surprised me and came up rating quite well with me was Is It Me in the last. I didn't think his run was too bad.
Well, he was out. He's one we're going to get to in hits and misses very shortly in that he was the one that got away from me on Saturday because he rated through the roof with me the start before at 1,400 metres Flemington as well. Anyway, that's the doghouse. Be forgiving, punters. Sometimes you don't want to be. Be with this. All right, hits and misses here, Hutch. So what the market did in terms of punters wanted to be with a certain horse will suggest why they were with this horse and do we want to continue to be with this one. So race 2, it was the 2-year-old Blethen, $6 into $3.30. Now, it misses, it runs unplaced. Now, I can understand why this horse was backed because I had, in terms of the race, had no real guts to their figures, so I can understand why they wanted to be with unraced horses. Again, it's not really my forte playing into trials and jump outs. It must have trialled well.
It did.
There you go. So I can understand why it was backed. It's not one for me going forward again, but would you want to would you follow that market support next start and go, well, it was 3.30 on debut, or are you like, didn't see enough?
No, I thought he was very disappointing. He trialled all right, but, now he's had a race. We can judge him off
correct.
that.
And that's,
I'd be leaning against him. I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, but no, I'm not completely sold on him.
Race 3, Fancify, $4.20 into $2.40. Unplaced. You can see why it was backed. It was sort of not much speed in the race, was going to roll forward from that inside gate, had She's Bulletproof form, and had the big figures at 1,400 metres, Flemington. It's fallen out the back of the TV, but it did run in monsoonal conditions.
It did. I suppose just to counter it a little bit, was Fancify suited as well when it did run those big numbers?
And that's a very good point. Yeah, dry track.
Was it flattered a little bit that day with a pretty big pattern on its side? So
absolutely.
Something to consider.
Yep. Race 4, My Brother's Keeper, $11 into $6. It ran second, I think, at its last start to Name Dropper. So I think if you're looking at that Name Dropper race, if you see any other horses coming out of that, I think follow it, because I think the big guys that obviously move the market, I think it's probably the race that's got some guts to it.
I had something on it in that race, and Smoking Princess, actually, it was a hit. But I thought, gee, Smoking Princess has come back well. I know you've been following it throughout the preparation.
Yeah, I think it's now three in a row. And now I get to the point where you go, okay, so it's 3 in a row, just keeps lifting the bar.
Yeah.
Just want to see now. This hasn't rated hugely with me, this race. Again, as I said, this whole meeting hard to rate, but just want to see what price sort of point it goes up. It was well supported, $9.50 into $6. Race 5, She's All Shenanigans, $5.50 into $3.30.
Facing the monsoon.
Leads into the wind. Had the She's Bulletproof form, so I can understand why it was really well backed. But had form at Flemington as well up the straight, but worried about it going forward. Race 6, Just Folk, 12 into $7.50, misses, but runs third, so pretty well if you were backing that each way. It was a horse that probably a wet tracker, was going to roll forward around the circle, probably wasn't much speed in the race, so I can understand that. This is an interesting one. I love your thoughts on this. Race 7, Feroci, $8.50 into $4.20 and actually starts favourite. Now runs third. I've never really had figures for this horse. I know it ran second in the Caulfield Guineas, but that Caulfield Guineas rated absolutely putrid for me, and then got beaten in the Carbine Club. I was surprised they backed this horse.
I was too.
And I think maybe is that worry that there was just they had no guts to anything else in the race, possibly. I'm not sure.
I'm with you. Like I think that Caulfield Guineas form, as I said on the day, that for me there was a pattern. Some think there wasn't, but I think he was really flattered with it. And we saw, was it an end of prep run or was it just not the right form? Because he did go out to a much easier race, the Carbine Club, and had every possible and didn't do much. I thought he ran well, but
he was okay.
Was okay, but he had every possible chance in this race as well. So he looks like he wants 2,000 now. I'm not sure. I'll be happy to bet against Feroci if he comes up again in the market.
Yep. And the last one for the hits and misses here, punters, is It Me? $6 into $3.50. And this is the one that I left on the table for the day, Hutch. As I said, it rated a monstrous figure, track and distance last start. Should have been with it. Just can't believe I didn't get involved there, but it's done it again. So it's going really well, this horse.
And I think the numbers that out of this race suggest that they can pick off some sort of low-level stakes race.
Yep.
Absolutely flying. And it was a good win off a pretty strong speed. And I don't know where they'll go next with him, but Is It Me is flying.
Absolutely. That's the hits and misses for the PointsBet team. All right, punters, now it's time for a new segment here. It's called Setting Fire to It. Look, we're going to probably have some trainers in the gun or jockeys in the gun or just variables in racing that we identify where we're just absolutely torching our cash. And to begin with is race 5 at Flemington on Saturday. She's All Shenanigans, $6 into $3.50. We spoke about it in hits and misses. Look, 15 minutes before the race, this Westerly got right up. So for those that don't know, the Westerly win is bang right in their faces up the straight. You can see this horse as it jumps out of the barrier. It's sort of second from the left of screen, just about the widest barrier in the green colours. It jumps as clean as you can possibly jump. Ryan Houston in the saddle, 3 kilo claimer, so 54 ended up with 51 kilos. No fault of Ryan. This is how you have to ride this horse. You have to go forward. So he jumps clean, but he is just facing the breeze the whole way. So even through this first, 600 metres, he seems to be travelling okay, but he is copping the brunt of this wind. And this is the whole point of it. The money was torched, even though heavily supported, had the right form line with She's Bulletproof. Sometimes you just know you're in trouble. And as you can see, sort of the 400 to the 300, this horse just continues to get overridden. And the winner, I think, Bossy Nick, comes home in around about 11.60, which is the best last 400 or best last 200 just about of the day with Skybird in the Lightning Stakes. You just couldn't be leading up the straight. No fault I think, of trainer or jockey or any type of tactics. It's the fault of the wind. So this is what happens in horse racing. There's just so many different variables. That's why it's so hard. But this, on paper, looked a fantastic bet. Market wanted to be with it 6 into $3.50, but we set fire to it because the variable being there, that westerly wind. We speak about the northerly wind at Caulfield. You cannot win when you are leading. There's outliers to that. You cannot win it. Well, now you need to start talking about the westerly wind at Flemington up the straight. It is now having a major impact on those leaders. That is setting fire to it this week. Okay, Hutch, now let's get to in the Fox's Den. Let's identify some black bookers that we want to be with this week, either out of Flemington or through the week. I don't think there was anything out of Flemington. So what do you got for me off Broadway?
I've got a couple here that are well worth following, Jules. One was in a maiden, and these maiden at Pakenham are particularly strong. And Astral Flame was the winner, but the runner-up, Chest of Gold, was having its first race start. The overall time of this race was excellent. I thought his performance, given it was his first day at the races, contained plenty of merit. He was strong late. He will just be winning a maiden wherever they decide to go. I'm not sure where that may be, but the winner of that race is going to be a pretty big chance.
He's going to be at the end of the Fox's Den, that winner.
Right, okay. Well, this horse, I don't know where Julius Sander will go, but Chest of Gold is definitely a horse that just follow on a maiden wherever it goes. It'll be short, but it'll be winning. And a horse that won a maiden quite nicely, Excel Indeed, for Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott. There was an odds-on favourite in the race from the Freedman camp who had every possible chance in the race. But I just looked at the figures with this, and Excel Indeed's come back and just elevated a little bit on what it's done in the past, where the numbers were all pretty consistent. And for whatever reason, once again, I love the last 100. I love the fact it can be on speed. And I thought, it might have just come back better this preparation. So it'll go to probably a 64 or something like that. And those are two horses I'd definitely be following.
Yeah, Chest of Gold, that's a ripper. It's just going to knock off that man. It's amazing that, because they're 70, as you mentioned, those Pakenham races. So for the punters out there that don't know, it's a $75,000 maiden, which is obviously a lot more than, say, the $30,000 or $35,000 they kick around for usually. And then if you win that race, you end up in a race that's worth $300,000. So you can understand if you think you got something pretty good at home. No doubt that it had been working really well. Obviously, there's been probably some chopping blocks at home that it's been absolutely torching on the track, and they've just missed out because they might have run into a very, very good horse we will get to very shortly.
And if we can get a man on the moon, then we could probably get you to start watching a few more trials and jump outs. Do you think it's possible? Well, you could become a bit of a convert.
I could, but if you think that we got a man on the moon, then we've got a couple other isures as well.
Are you a flat earther as well?
There's a bit more. Well, you think it's a circle, do you? Fair. We'd be rolling off, wouldn't we? Yeah, great.
Very good.
All right, Gala Queen for me. 2 runs this prep have been outstanding, massive in a maiden, then massive again last night. Now, there's no margins this last win at Pakenham, but it was along the inside. I reckon if they make a few other changes to this horse, we can be with it, and the market might forget it, so let's be with it. Redline Fever has won a maiden at Colac. It's gone enormous. The trainer I've never heard of before, Hutch, called Carly Thomas. She's got a really good one on her hands called Redline Fever. So I think some of the, wherever it goes next, let's be with it. It could get to the Valley and we can get a price about it if they wanted to go there. Scalato, it's had 2 wins, a maiden and then a 64. I haven't rated them any higher than what I've rated this horse.
Ooh.
The 3-year-old filly, no idea where it goes. There's a race called the PJ Bell, sort of up in Sydney, first week of April. Sometimes they put early markets up for it, for fillies. Wherever it goes, it is proper top shelf Scalato. Okay. And then we talk about Astral Flame. As you mentioned, that horse with Chest of Gold. Astral Flame got beaten in a maiden, was really well supported, might have been a bowl around for the bigger cash. It's a massive number, massive number. I think it'll win this future $300,000 race.
Serious, yeah.
It's interesting to see if they make one change. I'm not going to tell you what that change is.
I can guess what it might be, but we're not going to go down that path.
If they make the change, it is put in, take out. But 1.5 seconds inside standard time, best last 400, 200 of the day. You just don't see it too often. Astral Flame is a proper horse.
That was good.
In the Fox's Den this week. Right, Hutch, it's your turn now for crystal balling the Foxtures. So you've got one for the punters here you've identified that they might be able to get a juicy price about.
Yeah, I think with just looking forward to the Australian Guineas, like I see the market, and of course they always change on the back of a win like Sepul's.
Yeah, second, I think it's nearly second favourite now for the Australian Guineas.
Or pretty close to it off the back. And that was a nice enough win for mine. I know your jury's out with you, but just sort of having a quick look at the market there, and I see with PointsBet, we do have a very nice horse in Point and Shoot at around $13.
Okay.
Now, what I've liked about this horse with Airborne Baker,
Yes.
Won off a slow speed last start and excellent sectionals, and then prior to that was dominant off a really fast speed.
Right.
So I think he's a horse that's got some versatility.
Yep.
He's doing it on the clock. And, visually it's been impressive. And I just feel that, with Angel Capital who's also at the top of the market, not completely sold about a mile.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
I'm not 100% sold on that. And I think Evaporate, I'm not sure if they're going to go to the Australian Guineas, but it's another one that you could consider. But Point and Shoot, I think at that sort of price, a little bit out.
I like that.
Might be a little bit of value.
That's very good for the punters out there. So Australian Guineas Point and Shoot, $13 with PointsBet. Get involved. Let's get us to think outside the fox. Now, Hutchie, through the break, we decided to play a game of pickleball. Now, winner then got to choose for the other person to do something. And my main idea was that if I had the good fortune of winning, which I don't know if people have seen or not, I actually did win.
I'm mentally scarred over this. It took me a while. I still haven't got over it. I still haven't got over this.
You should take 3 months, like Yannick Sinner, and take 3 months.
Well, you should maybe get tested like him.
Go. Well, I'll tell you what, it might blow it up. So anyway, we're going to get off that testing. So the point is, I couldn't organise the skydiver with old Rummy. We couldn't find old Rummy, so that's the end of that. So that's no good. So my second one was for you to, in 1 or 2 gulps, have a lemonade icy pole in one. So what we've got is
great
in the amazingness of technology here. And I thought, but if you're going to do it, I'll do it. So if you don't want to do it, I'll do it.
Well,
so
I can't believe this. What, to get a brain freeze?
The idea is you've got to have it in like 2 goes. Okay. Now I don't know what the end is here, but I've got to a point where
is this could this be a health warning for me?
The point I've got to here is that I'm happy to test the limits of my body because I think we've done enough.
Yeah.
That if it all ends, it ends.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll have a crack.
No.
This is not good.
I shouldn't have done this.
I'm glad you're doing it with me. Hang on.
It's done.
What?
Well, you win. It's fine. It's actually fine. No. It's actually fine.
I'm dropping now.
That was Pandora's Fox. We'll see you next week.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.